Okay, so you have the subject, Bruce Springsteen, one of the greatest artists of his generation. You have the star, Jeremy Allen White, one of the hottest actors of his generation. Put those two together, you have a lot of high expectations, but does Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, actually deliver? I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. The group chat is here. Vish Khanna is here. Adrian Horton is here. Dominic Tardif is here. Hello to all of you.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi.
Hello.
Listen, one of us is going to use a Bruce Springsteen voice at a certain point in this conversation. I don't know who it's going to be, but you know what? We're going to find out. But before we get into the movie, I just want to sort of maybe set up the conversation here, because this isn't a movie about Bruce's entire life. It is a movie about one very specific record, and that's this one.
Well, they blew up the chicken man in Philly last night. Now they blew up his house too. Down on the
From 1982, that is Atlantic City. This album is called Nebraska. Vish, Nebraska has this mythical sort of stature, among sort of Bruce Springsteen albums. For those people who are not steeped in the lore, this is their opportunity to jump on the bus. Why is this album so significant?
Well, there's several reasons for it beyond the songs and the sound of the record. This is probably the real inflection point for Bruce Springsteen. It's probably the last time he's viewed as a mortal man, frankly.
Yes.
His career has been really sort of up and down. He's just come off his most commercial record, successfully commercial record, The River, which thanks to the hit single Hungry Heart, which is about a philandering deadbeat dad. But it's got a nice beat and you can dance to it. Very weird that that's his breakthrough song. Yes. But up until this point, his first two records kind of underperformed for Columbia Records, according to them. They want to kick him off the label if his next album isn't successful, which ends up being Born to Run. I mean, he's on the cover of Time magazine and Newsweek at the same time, which makes him incredibly uncomfortable. All the attention and the fame, it's not what he's after. Then he has this protracted legal dispute with his first manager and basically a father figure, Mike Appel. That delays him from making another dark-hued album, Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Yeah.
Then The River is very buoyant in some ways, but also hues dark. And now we're at Nebraska. So Nebraska, he's really wrestling with the ups and downs of his career, and he's also wrestling with what it means to be an American citizen at this point, the dawn of the Reagan era. And for whatever reason, he's going dark. He's thinking about classism. He's thinking about his childhood and his relationship with his father. He's delving into characters that are steeped in crime, like serial killers, sexual predators, ostensibly. And he's fascinated by all these strange, marginalized characters. And at the same time, he's trying to figure himself out.
Yeah.
So he makes a record on his own.
In a bedroom.
I think in his bedroom on a 4-track machine, and he's exploring this dark content, and he's also presenting it in a very stark but muddy sort of way. He uses an Echoplex. He uses a 4-track machine meant to be demos. But then there's something about the feeling and the unself-consciousness of his performances that makes him feel like this is the most authentic thing I can do. And again, after
he's looking to find himself and sort of like maybe locate what he sounds like, and then he says, "This is it."
But I also think, like, at the same time, everyone, as he's writing these really dark-hued songs that end up on Nebraska, he's writing and recording the songs for Born in the USA.
Yeah.
But he's sitting on them. And the label and his manager, even John Landau, is like, what do you want to put out Nebraska? Like, these are demos. And I also feel like this is his last, like, after like almost a decade of fighting some oppositional force, record labels, whoever, I think it was a last stand for him to be like a real test of his power.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't care. I want to put out this. And then who could have foreseen that the next album, Born in the USA, like I said, makes him a mega superstar, an immortal rock legend. But maybe he knew. He's like, no, this is my last chance to do something on my own without any expectations from anyone else. And I'm doing it, and try and stop me. And then,
But
of course, he gives them Born in the USA,
and this
they're
is but
all
this is what
happy.
happens though when you ask people who love Bruce about Nebraska, they go, well, hang on, Nebraska is his own other sort of like separate universe, because there is sort of Bruce Springsteen who's the mountain, and then there is sort of Bruce Springsteen who is the one that is present on Nebraska. And Dominic, this is a biopic that is so super laser focused on the period of time when Springsteen is making Nebraska. I think like there is a temptation to sort of like tell the Bruce Springsteen the mountain story, like the Bruce Springsteen the icon story, the sort of like, or even the cradle to right now story. But there's what greater truth do we learn about Bruce, by sort of zeroing in on this very specific, very intimate, actually very quiet moment of Bruce Springsteen's life?
Yeah, and I guess that like this movie has been made especially because Bruce, who's a notorious control freak, I think that he agreed to do this movie because it's not the huge portrait of like the mountain, as you're saying. But to get to your question, yeah, I think that what is the most fascinating thing about the movie is that they show us how his inner life came through this song. So as Vish was saying, it's this album is an oddity in his catalog. It was at that point, and it's still an oddity.
Yeah.
And it's a record that is not really talking about his own life in any specific way, in any autobiographical way, except maybe one or two songs, My Father's House and Mansion on the Hill.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's his most intimate record. Like all those characters, those serial killers, those small-time criminals, those losers, they are a reflection of what was going on at that point in Bruce's inner life. And there was a whole bunch of things going through his brain and his heart at this point that were bubbling up into those songs. So for me, the best thing that the movie's doing is showing us, and it's tough to do that for the big screen, to show us how songs are being written. Like we saw a bunch of those movies where there's four guys in a room playing parts of songs, and we're like, can we just get to the part where they play at Wembley Stadium or where they play at Madison Square Garden? And I feel that Scott Cooper, the director of Deliver Me From Nowhere, did a good job at showing us what was going through Bruce's thinking about the abuse he suffered at the hands of his father, turned out into those songs about things that didn't have anything to do with his life. All this to say that it's kind of his own folklore. Like folklore is to Taylor Swift what Nebraska is to Bruce Springsteen catalog.
I just want it on the record that I did not bring up Taylor Swift first in this conversation. It was not me. It was you.
I did it all by myself.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you did. Okay.
Noted.
We started the conversation by playing a bit of Atlantic City. Adrian, I want to play right now just a bit of the actual movie itself. So here's a bit of Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere.
Here's what I want you to understand. This is not about either one of us. This is not about the charts. This is about Bruce Springsteen. And these are the songs that he wants to work on right now.
I saw her standing on her front lawn, just a twirling her butt.
Okay, so we just heard there was a trailer for Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, and I should note that is Jeremy Allen White singing in that. Like that's he did a great job singing as the boss. Okay, also you heard Jeremy Strong playing Bruce Springsteen's longtime manager, John Landau. Adrian, you came to this movie as more of a casual Springsteen fan. Maybe you didn't really necessarily know the story about Nebraska. Maybe you never heard about Nebraska at all. Did it make sense to you to sort of make a movie about that? Did you find the story compelling?
Yeah, I will cop to being a casual Springsteen fan and not knowing Nebraska.
It's not
at
an
all.
accusation. It's like that's
no.
normal. That's chill. That's
It's
like
fun.
yeah.
I knew, my dad is Springsteen's age and he played a lot of the early stuff. He insisted the early stuff was good. And I knew Born in the USA,
Yes.
which, very much plays as a patriotic song, even though it's much more complicated than that.
Yes.
But yeah, I went in pretty not knowing any of Nebraska. And I also went in very skeptical of this film as a biopic because this is the musical biopic is such a kind of overdone genre, to the point where, last year when Timothée Chalamet won a SAG award for playing Bob Dylan, in A Complete Unknown, he even acknowledged in the speech, this genre could seem tired, but everyone tried anyways to give it their all. And so I went in very much braced for, we know the cliches of this genre, the kind of like rise from nowhere, the discovery moment, a montage rise to fame, a struggle with substance abuse or something. And there certainly were moments of those cliches in this movie. There's moments where Bruce Springsteen's like writing some lyrics and they are pretty basic, but you're supposed to feel like, wow, a stroke of genius. And there's a couple of, female characters that kind of just play basic supporting roles. But
I think even
overall,
that is generous, to be honest with you, but yes.
Yeah, I'm being very generous to the Grace Gummer role as John Landau's wife.
There's a Manic Pixie Dream Girl element to that character, clearly.
100%.
There for sure. But I was surprised and won over by the perspective of this film and the very, very limited, almost like burrowing scope into this 1 year. 1981, when Springsteen was working on this record. And, even though he's on the brink of superstardom and is like a generationally talented artist, I found something really relatable and interesting about this period of time in one's early 30s, where you're maybe some like the excuses of youth are running out and some demons are catching up with you and you're feeling really haunted by the past. I think you hear that on the record. And in a lot of these movies there's like a big triumphant scene and a lot of myth making. You heard some myth making in that trailer of like, Bruce Springsteen like really coming into his own. But this movie, I think, charmingly to me, avoided a lot of that. We see like maybe 2 scenes of Springsteen performing and they're pretty short. Most of the time he's sad, alone, sitting in his bedroom. And the climax, the ultimate victory in this film is not that he like achieves Born in the USA fame. That's outside the scope of this film. That comes later. It's that the people in his life tell him to get professional help because he's depressed. And that's a really interesting point to make in a musical biopic. So I found that I was won over by that.
Yeah, the I should say like the resolution of this film is like Bruce Springsteen is able to cry, right? Like that's where we're going. Like this is like, hey, Men Get Therapy the movie is essentially like what you're sort of like watching here. And there's something about Jeremy Allen White's performance where he sort of like is carrying the weight and the weight of like what Springsteen was sort of carrying through his entire life up until that point, where you kind of just see it in his face. And he's not doing a lot, but his not doing a lot is the thing that, for me, made it work. He's not being bombastic on stage. He is looking at people, and he can kind of tell that he's 40,000 miles away. Like, Vish, did that work for you? That sort of Jeremy Allen White performance, did that capture this sort of like weighted Springsteen that he was sort of trying to get at?
Telling to me that A Complete Unknown was just invoked because this film is called Deliver Me from Nowhere. There's something about the Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen movies where we're delving into the dark recesses of their origin story on some level. And, I'm okay. For the Jeremy Allen White question, I'll say this. I watched The Bear with my wife and I'm very immersed in The Bear. And every so often when I'm watching The Bear, I think to myself, man, Carmy, get it together, man. Enjoy your restaurant. I hope you succeed.
They're basically the same character, Bruce.
I was so distracted.
Carney. Yeah.
I was so distracted by Jeremy Allen White having no prosthetics, no real affectation, a little bit of Bruce, that I found myself saying to myself, come on, Carmy, put out Nebraska. Get to Born in the USA, buddy. You can do it. So on some level,
contacts are only doing so much.
Yeah, like I do think like don't get me wrong. I think it's a wonderful performance. Yeah. I think the film could have like the treatment of a Bruce Springsteen story could have taken all sorts of paths. I will echo what I think some people have already said. Like this is a super ambitious and fascinating story to take up about Bruce. I will also say, much like Nebraska for me, which I love, some days I can't. I'm like, it's too much. It's too intense. I can't listen to this. I'm going to put on something else by Bruce. The movie is hard. It's a hard
I'm
movie
not
to
gonna
watch.
rewatch this movie 8 times. It's just like it's
But
not a fun.
it's a good movie to watch if you need to cry.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I joked, and with all due respect to what we learned about his trauma, my joke was like more like Brood Springsteen, because it's so intense, and you're just like, man, come on. But it's an act. Like, again, I just alluded to Hungry Heart. The guy skews dark. He finds joy in things, but like, to make your first big hit song,
He's got a
really,
darkness in
like,
him.
yeah, exactly. So it's there, and this is a point in his sort of, he's 10 years into his career or more. He's finally trying to reckon with why he skews dark.
And I will say
think
that, like,
that's fascinating.
to me, that has actually always been the magic of Bruce Springsteen, is that he's someone who's able to sort of move you through his own darkness. Like, you kind of feel safe as you traverse his own darkness and listen to it. You go like, oh, he's not stuck in it, but he knows it well enough that he can sort of like guide us through this entire journey.
Well,
but
I think we're all culturally, we're drawn to darkness. Like, who
Yeah.
are we kidding? We like the darker stories.
Let me ask you, Dominic, because you're the only one among us who's had a chance to talk to Jeremy Allen White about, and you talked to him in Ashbury Park in New Jersey.
Yeah.
What did you tell you
And
about
the Stone
his?
Pony.
I was gonna say, tell me about
wow.
how he was thinking about, how to approach playing Bruce.
But I'm not gonna brag for too long because
should.
I had the honor to talk to him for 5 long minutes.
That's pretty good.
And he was with Scott Cooper, the director.
Yeah.
But the word they kept on using, Jeremy Allen White, Scott Cooper, and Warren Zanes, who wrote the book, who inspired the movie, is the word abyss. And that's the main thing that moved me the most. Even though I had read the Bruce autobiography, I had seen the Broadway show, I knew that he was deep into depression, that he had struggles with mental health. But the depth of his pain at that moment, I was not aware of that. And maybe they exaggerated it for a dramatic purpose in the movie. It's possible. But there's a scene where he just bought a car and he's driving recklessly, like he's trying to kill himself, and while he's doing that, he's listening to the New York band Suicide, which is a huge inspiration, like kind of incredible inspiration, because it doesn't have anything to do sonically with Bruce's music
At all.
But he's at all. But he's
until
listening
Nebraska. Until Nebraska.
But still, I mean, it's a really cult band from New York where Bruce is this mythical figure. So you would not talk about them in the same sentences if it was not of Nebraska. And he's driving, he's listening to one of Suicide's song, and he's maybe trying to kill himself. So even though I knew that Bruce had gone through a rough patch while writing Nebraska, I was not aware of how deep he was in his despair. And the crazy thing is that usually artists, they will go through things like that, and they will write about it after they're out of their despair. But Bruce wrote all those songs he wrote and recorded in Nebraska while he was deep into that. So this is another fascinating thing about Nebraska.
We talk about the idea that he wrote, Born in the USA during the Nebraska sessions. Born in the USA is an incredibly dark song. The patriotic associations that people have notwithstanding, perhaps they've not listened to the lyrics before, but there's something about that song that is like, it feels to me like it's of a piece with that darkness. If folks are just joining us, my name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion. Adrian Horton is here, Vish Khanna is here, and Dominic Tardif is here, and we are talking about Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, which is in theaters right now. Why don't we hear another song? Because, listen, as this movie came out, also, we got this.
Hey, was down in a part of town with a red light, buddy, you don't stop. Johnny's waving a gun around and Fred and a blow his top.
Look, we're talking about Nebraska being this dark, dour, sad record, and then also what we got this week is something called Nebraska 82. It's a brand new Springsteen sort of box set, and what he's giving you is like, okay, we did some full band version of these songs. They didn't quite work for me then, but they work now, so here they are. We got some live versions that are just quite rollicking and just got a great time. Adrian, watching this movie, do you kind of go like, yeah, all right, I'm a little bit interested in this box set. I'm sold, Bruce. Bring me this new music closer. Or are you kind of like, no, I'm good, thank you.
Let me give you $200.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Adrian, you gonna do it?
Well, you know what? I walked out of this film. The film ends, the credits end with like a live version of Atlantic City, which I hadn't heard before, and I left the theater and listened to that song on repeat. I went through basically like every live version on Spotify to pick my favorite one for days, and then bought the original Nebraska on vinyl, which I've been listening to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really meet my usual BPM threshold of like I need fast music only.
Yes.
But I've really enjoyed the record, I think, because I found the mood of the film kind of stuck with me, and that I enjoyed the spectral, haunted quality of the music. And we talk about Bruce Springsteen, he's like the pride of New Jersey, but the album's called Nebraska, and there's something like real sense of open space there that to me conveys the American heartland. And I'm from the Midwest, and I've just really enjoyed listening to that. So I haven't been as attuned to Electric Nebraska, the so-called fabled Electric Nebraska, and I've listened to some of it, and I honestly, shockingly prefer. I think the movie vindicates him, right? That like it made absolutely zero commercial sense to release the demos that we see him making on these like kind of old equipment that's basically inventing like lo-fi bedroom pop.
Yeah.
And
he really had to fight for that.
Yeah, he had really had to fight for that. And the release of Electric Nebraska, although it's enjoyable to listen to, kind of shows me why.
I think when I think about those scenes, also a very underutilized Mark Maron in this movie, by the way, who plays like a studio tech.
Like 2 lines.
He's got 2 lines. Yeah. And he goes through the process of being like, we must restore the demos, so that we can actually sell them.
I loved that part of the movie. The part of the movie that like gets really technical, and it's like literally, how do we get this like 4-piece? I forget what that machine is called that he recorded it on.
Yeah,
the 4-track with the echo locator or
Echoplex.
Echoplex. Yeah. See, I learned so much from this movie. The Echoplex. How do we get that onto an actual vinyl that you can reproduce? And
there's like one guy who can do it,
There's one guy who can do it, and he's like, we got to make the grooves this way. So interesting. I'm so glad they included that. Most other films would have skipped that completely.
And this is why I was scared about, because I had read the book from Warren Zanes when it came back 2 years ago. Yeah. And the book really deals with that thing. Like in detail? Really doesn't really deal with Bruce's inner life. It's about how are we going to take this tape and turn it into a record. And I was like, it's not gonna make for great cinema, this old process. But it turns out that it's great cinema.
I'm not gonna lie to you. This movie, I should say, this movie's shorter than a lot of other biopics. It's like an hour and 53 minutes. I would have watched another 20 minutes of Mark Maron trying to negotiate how to figure out how to take this like little cassette tape and go like, how do we make this sound on a vinyl? And the guy was like, well, we gotta space out the needle grooves. It was, because honestly, it was like a kind of a fascinating thing to watch. Knowing that they would have briefly explained the science. I was like, sit more in this. This is actually like fascinating to me. I wanted more of it.
It turns out that's more cinematic than watching Bruce Springsteen write the lyrics for Nebraska, which basically amounts to him sitting on the ground and writing like, why ? To like a newspaper article.
They also really emphasize the fact that the tape never had a cover.
They did.
The tape
no case.
The tape was handed around to people just as a tape. There was no case for it, and
they can't find a case.
I'm sure I need to write an English essay about what that symbolically means, but like the fact that it was so unfettered that it didn't even have a case to protect it was kind of fascinating.
I'll tell you this. I am interested in the Nebraska 82 box set. I don't have the $1 million that it takes to sort of, to spend on it. But quickly, Vish, and then over to you, Dom, because we got like literally a minute and a half here. Are you on board with Nebraska 82?
Well, I'm on board with it because I'm a completist, and it's fascinating to get these insights into what actually happened after long rumored recordings that the band and Bruce themselves couldn't remember if it even existed. Bruce had gone on record saying someone asked him about it when he was promoting the other box set that you and I talked about, Elamin. Tracks 2, and he was like, no, it doesn't exist. Had to text the reporter to be like, actually, I went into the vault and it does exist, and we are going to. So I think it's mythical, and for completists, yes, but to the point that was just raised, nothing will top the ambience and sound. The sound of the original Nebraska is part of the character of the material. Nothing has topped it. No live version, no nothing.
Dominic, real quick, are you on board?
Yeah, I'm on board, but I'm with you. Like, I mean, it just tells us how we made the right decision at that point. And
Yes.
it's great because you can hear the Born in the USA song in a new light, in
Yes,
a
you can.
darker light. Yeah.
You truly can. I really appreciate your time. I am absolutely going to go listen to Nebraska immediately after this conversation. I have been listening since I saw the movie. What a record. What a conversation. I'm grateful for all of you. Thank you so much for your time, you guys.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. Adrian Horton is a film critic for The Guardian in New York. Vish Khanna is the host of the podcast Creative Control, both words spelled with a K. He was in Edmonton. And Dominic Tardif is a journalist for La Presse in Montreal. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, is in theaters right now. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow. See you then.